Madam President, members of the public have been admitted from the waiting room and the meeting is being recorded.
Okay. Thank you, Betsy. So welcome to our August 26, 2021 MSD meeting. We will go ahead and let me just make a quick announcement. The meeting is called to order. While the MSD board is in session, all board members must preserve order, decency, and decorum at all times and be respectful while others are speaking. So let's go ahead and take roll call, Betsy.
Yes, Director Johnson,
Here.
Director Barrett,
Here.
Director Eversole,
Here.
Director Fuller,
Here.
and I believe that Director Newquist is not currently here and we expect him to arrive within the next 5-10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead with any public comment that's not on our agenda, and you'll be limited to 3 minutes. So if there's any public comment, please raise your hands.
Members of the public, if you wish to speak on an item that is not on the agenda today, please use the raised hand function in Zoom so that we can see you. And at that time, I'll unmute you and ask you to use your video. Madam President, I see no hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead with approval of minutes. And it is for the August the 12th. It's in your packet if everybody wants to take a look at that. It's on page 2 of our packet. And I believe that was the day there was 3 board members. So would anyone have any board member have a question or comment for the August 12th?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes as they are.
I second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second by Don and a motion by Woody. I'm sorry, Director Barrett. Sorry, Woody, we got to correct your title there, Director Barrett.
Woody's good.
We all know who that is. So is there any questions from the public? Okay. So let's go ahead, and there's a motion and a second. We could go ahead and do roll call. Betsy, do you want to go ahead and take roll call?
Yes. Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversole,
Aye.
Director Fuller,
Aye.
Director Johnson,
Yes. Yes, please.
Director Newquist being absent, motion passes, minutes approved.
Thank you. And that day, just let you know that we had Director Fuller and Director Newquist absent. So I would think that Mr. Fuller, Director Fuller should probably abstain. Did he abstain on that one?
That's actually,
From the vote?
Director Johnson, that's not correct. He doesn't have to abstain because he was absent at the meeting.
Okay,
A lot of people do, but that's not a requirement.
okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to go ahead and look at the approval of payables. And that was for August 7th and August 16th. And that is on page 6 of your packet. So let's go ahead and look at your packet on page 6. If there's any questions. Was there a meeting at all? Dawn?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, the only payables in the packet are for August 16th.
Okay.
Madam President, members of the board, yes, we issue payables on a biweekly cycle. So generally, our meetings have been, since we have 2 a month, most of the time we'll only have one set of payables for each meeting for approval.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to accept the payables as stated in our packet.
Okay, we have a motion.
I
Is there-
second the motion.
Okay, and Director Eversol has second. Is there any questions from, any other further questions from the board? If not, we'll go ahead and see if the public has any questions regarding the payables. You see any raised hands at all? That's it.
Madam President, there are no raised hands at this time.
Okay. Thank you. So we do have a motion and a second for the approval of the payables. So let's go ahead and take roll call. Betsy?
Yes, Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversol,
Aye.
Director Fuller.
Aye.
And Director Johnson.
Aye.
Director Newquist being absent, who's just joining the meeting now, but motion passes and payables accepted.
Thank you, Betsy. So we're going to go ahead and wait till we have. You said Director Newquist is logging on now?
I am here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
So we're gonna, okay. So welcome. So we're gonna go ahead into a closed door session. We're just gonna be talking about an evaluation of the government code section 54957 regarding the general manager, and we will be going to closed door session. And so I think we're gonna have legal counsel, or Betsy, can you help us with that, please?
Yes, certainly. Our General Counsel, Mark Mannion, is here. I'm going to make Mark the host. I will stop recording. I'm going to place everyone in the waiting room except for the board and council. Then I'll make Mark the host. Mark, when closed session is finished, you can bring everybody back from closed session out of the waiting room, except for General Manager Rare. And please make me the host again.
We'll let you know, and hopefully this won't take too long, but okay, so we just
It's
we are
just gonna
still,
take me a moment to put everyone into the waiting room. So if you'll know when I'm done by, it will not be recorded anymore. And then Mark will be the host. So just a moment. Okay, Mark, once I've made you the host, I believe you are no longer, I'm no longer recording. For some reason, it didn't look like it worked when I put Brad in the waiting room. So would you please put myself and Brad in the waiting room?
Okay, I will
do,
try.
and then
And now that you're the host, you want to stop the recording.
Okay.
now for some reason, let's see what happened here. I am now logged off,
No, you're on.
Yeah,
but I
we're
don't
still there.
see anyone. Hold on. Hold on, maybe I can get back on here. Okay, I see. Okay, I see everyone. Okay, so
We're still recording. We still got Betsy. We still got
yeah,
Brad.
we're still recording. I still see Brad. Also, too, if anybody has a phone.
I don't
know,
see Dean. I don't see
Yeah.
Dana though. He's,
Yeah, we now, Dana, can you get on? Or we
We
let
lost
Dana
Dana.
in?
Is he in the waiting room?
I'll resume.
And there was no reportable action.
correct.
Okay,
Thank you, Betsy. So let's go ahead. We had our closed session, and then Mark, go ahead and repeat what we have. No reportable action, please.
Correct. There was no reportable action.
Okay, thank you. So based on item 5A, so there's no, so we're going to go into item 6A, which is the Highway 101 sewer main relocation project. And then Brad, I think, will be recusing himself on that right?
Correct. I have a disqualifying conflict of interest on this item, and so I will need to step aside from this item.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Okay,
Madam President, directors of the board, our general practice is to only have the directors on video until a member of the public is participating. So I just want to let everyone know if your video is turned off. I've turned it off until you requested public comment, and at that time, I'll ask you to turn it on again.
Okay.
I will place General Manager Rare back into the waiting room. And he is there. Would you like me to share the board packet?
yes, please, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, so we will be discussing item 6A, which is the Highway 101 Sewer Main Relocation Project. And it's recommended that the board consider, we were hearing, I guess hearing the presentation from the general counsel as requested on July 22nd related to the Miramar lift station legal documents and receiving a project status update and alignment alternatives from Ms. Poitras based on some alternatives and updates. Okay. So let's go ahead. Mark, we'll go ahead with you. I think you're going to just give some overview.
Sure. So the document that's up on the screen is actually for the two lines. And so it doesn't really involve the lift station. The lift station is the subject of a separate agreement and a separate granted permanent easement and temporary easement. So Betsy, maybe if you could go to that document.
Yes, here's the easement document. Is that the correct?
Yeah,
one?
that's fine. We can just, so there was a lift station that was constructed on property owned by the Miramar. And the lift station was constructed. And at the conclusion of that construction, the lift station became the property of the district. And also the district became the beneficiary of a permanent easement and a temporary easement. The temporary easement is still in effect, and it has to do with the ability to access the easement area and to do certain maintenance activities. There are some limits, not great, not huge limits on the ability. Well, first of all, let me say that the grant of easement expressly contemplates the ability of the district to continue to use the lift station and to expand the use of the lift station. So it contemplates the ability of the district to have other people discharge into that lift station. It's expressly contemplated on two separate grounds. One is that you're being forced to do it by some other regulatory or by a regulatory agency, or in the event that there are technological advances in the future. So the easement does contemplate the ability of the district to use that lift station for other dischargers. So there's nothing in it. I don't know what was said. I've heard discussions about representations made at meetings and other things. I know nothing about that. What governs this relationship is this document that's recorded. It doesn't mean the district has to use or has to expand the use of it. That's up to the board and the district to make that decision, the board of directors. But you have the ability to allow others to discharge into that lift station. Obviously, if the use beyond what Miramar is allowed to make use of it is expanded, the district or whoever is benefiting by that would be required to make those improvements to the lift station. So that's all I have for you.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Uh-huh.
So based on this easement that you are talking about, I don't believe this was brought to our board of directors. This is the first time I've seen this document. Again, this is something that the board of directors should review and understand. I don't think we could make a decision on this today. If there is a decision, I think this was brought up, I think in one of the meetings when I met with the Miramar at the hotel with the general manager and also their senior vice president, and I believe one of their engineers, but that was the first I heard about this. So maybe we need just some clarification on this a little bit. I mean, it's written here, but it's the first time I've seen this document.
Right,
Has
this
anyone
was-
else seen this?
This was a document that was recorded back in 2019. So this was well before you being elected to the board. So that's probably why you haven't seen it. A copy of it was in the board packet that was distributed to the board.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
there's this is a pre-existing grant of permanent easement that was in effect before several of you were elected to the board. So it wouldn't have been something that would have come before you after you were elected to the board.
But now, are you asking us to make some kind of decision
No,
on this? Okay.
no, this is just informational. So I've described, someone asked what the relationship, if there were limits on the ability of the sanitary district to make use of that lift station. And the answer to that question is, here's the document that governs that relationship. It was recorded back in 2019, and there really aren't very big limitations on the ability to make use of that. So there's really no decision for the board to make with respect to this. You don't have to make use to it if there's alternative mechanisms for distributing your waste that don't involve taking it to this lift station. Then the board could obviously instruct staff to do that. But there's nothing in here that precludes you from using this lift station to distribute waste.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Uh-huh.
So.
Madam
again,
Chair, I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Director Barrett, please.
Thank you. This is for Mark. For clarification, Mark, for the permanent easement and the temporary easement, I'm looking at page 33 of 54. It's this one right here. It's a diagram by Santec, I believe.
33.
Yes.
Page
Yes.
33 of 54
Okay.
of the packet. There we go. Thank you, Betsy. So easement area 1, which is more or less close to a square, but more like a rectangle, that's the permanent easement, right, Mark?
Yeah, it's interesting. That's referred to as a permanent exclusive easement area. I don't know why it was made exclusive. I wasn't involved in the drafting of this document, but it's a permanent, and what an exclusive easement means is that you exclude the ability to do other things.
Right.
Most easements are non-exclusive. So.
That's the location of the lift station. It's underneath ground there.
Okay.
And then easement area 2 and outline around it, that's a temporary when we need to work, or when the district needs to work on things or something within the permanent easement.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to be sure I had those correct,
Yes, that's right.
because usually an easement goes through a property, gets one side or the other. And now we have, these two are, one's just a square. So it's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Was any other board have any questions regarding this easement? Or any questions on that? Okay. So I think what we're looking at this. I think now, does that easement, my question is the easement the property of the Miramar? Or maybe someone could help me clarify that?
Sure. What an easement is, an easement grants certain rights to another to use your property. So the Miramar, or whatever holding company owns that land, is the fee owner of that land. And they've granted certain rights to the sanitary district in the form of an easement. In this case, it's to have the lift station constructed on there and maintained on there and operated on there. And so the underlying owner of the land is the Miramar holding company or whatever it is that owns the land, but we have these easement rights.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to know, who owns that. Okay. So the sanitary district does not own that. Okay, it's Miramar. Okay, thank you. So was there any other questions? So Stantec worked on this period back in 2019. Okay, So I believe there was also, okay, was there any other board member that have any other questions on this particular easement? I'm going to bring that to the public. If the public have any other questions, please raise your hands and Betsy will go ahead and unmute you. Thank you. I don't see any raised hands. Do you at all, Betsy?
Madam President, Bryce Ross in the public has raised his hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can we please put him online video? Hi,
Yeah.
welcome, Bryce. How are you? Bryce
Hello.
is from the Miramar, so welcome.
Hello, board. Hello, staff, members of the public. Good afternoon. I'm Bryce Ross, Senior Vice President of Development for Caruso, the owner of the Miramar. And I was involved in the day-to-day workings with staff at the time that the lift station was being designed and constructed and whatnot. And, you know, as Mark sort of had alluded to in some of his comments, it definitely was clear that through the discussions that the lift station was designed to serve the Miramar. In fact, if you read that document that Mark was reading, it says it was being designed, constructed to treat wastewater from the Miramar. It doesn't talk about anything else in its use intention. And I think that that's where our, you know, just interest comes in, is we want to make sure that obviously we have a big investment in the community, a big investment with the Miramar, and we want to make sure that the Miramar has, you know, the full sanitary service as needed for the resort to operate to its full capacity. You know, we did pay for the lift station exclusively, is at least that's my understanding. And it was designed based on the flows and the calculations and whatnot, which would be exclusively coming from the Miramar. So our interest is really that capacity is there. You know, since we've opened, obviously 2019 was a ramp up year and 2020, the pandemic hit. So I think it's fair to say that we really haven't seen the full generating capacity coming from the Miramar. So we are very interested in that, and we're looking at that. We're starting to look at that, I should say. We're just getting up to speed as this is moving rather rapidly. And I think it would be terrific to sit down with staff and to get into a little bit more granular conversation about all the different options and all the different alternatives that they're looking at, and really get into the detail. Maybe we can have some of our professionals join that conversation as well, in the interest of making sure that this is a success for everybody involved.
Thank you, Bryce. I really appreciate that.
Madam Chair, may I ask Mr. Ross a question?
Yes, you can. Director Barrett, please go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Ross. I have a question for you. Back in the infancy, when this lift station was being designed, didn't your engineers come up with flow rates, including a rain event, and come up with an amount of gallons per day that you would need for a lift station? Is that how this 100,000 gallon unit was conceived, or why was it built to this size?
I'm going from memory here, and that we're looking at that point exactly right now. We did provide a basis of design, and I believe the engineer that the district ultimately hired was Phoenix Engineering. I can't remember the engineer's name off the top of my head, but it'll come to me in a moment. He ultimately worked for, John Turner. That's
John
right.
Turner.
Yeah, John Turner. Ultimately, thank you for reminding me.
Yeah. It may not be a good memory.
Well, for me, unfortunately, I'll reserve. But unfortunately, my recollection is the basis of design that we provided was not seen as adequate in terms of what the John's firm believed that the demands of the Miramar would be. This is going from memory, so
Right.
verify that. But I do know that there's discussion now that there's excess capacity. And I think, one of the things that we want to do is just look at, what the Miramar's actual demands will be relative to what was built and make sure that everything's lining up the way it should be.
Right. That's what we need to know from you as a district also. I think it's extremely important to know what your needs are and what your engineers come up with flow rates. Because that gives us guidance on, there may not be any excess capacity. We don't know.
Yeah, and while we don't have any immediate plans to make any revisions, we are owners of real estate that are actively involved, and we're constantly responding to different ideas that come up from the community and our guests of how we can better serve them. And we're always looking at different ideas. So if there was capacity, given that we paid for the Miramar, for the lift station, that's also a conversation that we should probably discuss at some point.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I know that there's been many moons passed since this was done. So thank you for the information.
To be totally honest, I was hopeful that I'd never have to talk about the lift station again. But here we are. So.
I know, really, right? Thank you, Bryce. Thank you, Director Barrett. I just want to go ahead. We did brought this up in closed door session, but I just want to go ahead and put this on the record. Maybe Betsy could, because I don't think this has been brought up in our public meeting. I did receive an email of August 24th from the Miramar to Brad and Karen. It was also directed to me, and I would like to have that go ahead on the record and to put that for the record here. And it's just an email. And I will go ahead and just read that again so that we could go ahead and maybe address this. I hope that you're both well, which is according to Brad and Carrie, but it was also to me. Following up on our recent meeting at the Miramar regarding the District 101 sewer main relocation project, we are proceeding with our diligence as we discussed to facilitate the district. As we had discussed in our meeting, it was our understanding that the Miramar lift station was designed by the district to only serve the needs of the Miramar. And given that 2019 was a slow ramp up year, and then in 2020, the pandemic hit, we are concerned that the full operational demands of the Miramar relative to the lift station may not be represented in the flows you have and are receiving. And therefore, we would like to ensure that the Miramar be able to operate properly.
Sure.
Would like to have our engineering team look at the following documents for the lift station: the district basis of design used to design the lift station, specifications, engineering construction drawings. It would also be helpful for us to have the historic flow reports from the Miramar from February 2019 through July 2021. Our team will begin our review quickly upon receipt of these documents from the district. We appreciate your help. And that was from Bryce Ross, the Senior VP of Development and Acquisition of Caruso Group. So I just went for the record because we did discuss that in closed door session. So there's documents that we probably definitely need to provide the Miramar if we have those records. So let's see, I think we could go ahead. If there's any other questions, we could go ahead and turn that over to our Ms. Poitras to discuss further, or if there's any other questions. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Poitras. Did I see Mr. Fuller? Director Fuller, quickly.
Yes, thank you. I'm a little confused. When they submitted their permit, they obviously submitted all their flows. So I don't understand why they don't know what flows they're anticipating that should have been submitted when we did this station, the lift station. Now, we, via our past general manager that I know Woody takes exception with, she put us in a very strong position here. She made them put in what he stated. They wanted to put in a smaller lift station, but no, we said, no, you need a bigger lift station. And he let it slip at the end of his conversation, Mr. Bryce, I believe, that this is about money. They were forced to spend $6 million. And if somebody else is going to use that lift station, they'd like them to pay for part of it. And I think that's really
Of course.
the long and short of this. Is that, am I missing something?
No.
Thank you.
That I don't know.
Madam Chair,
Yeah, go ahead, Director Barrett, please.
I
Thank
didn't
you.
say that I didn't say they wanted to put in a smaller lift station, Director Fuller. There are prefab units that you can buy, and they were not allowed to do that. They had to construct this 3-story deep, massive, huge thing that's out there now.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad, but thank you
Yeah.
for the clarification.
No.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Was there any other comments from the public before we go to Ms. Poitras? Any other public member like to speak? Any raised hand?
Madam President, it appears Bryce Ross has his hand.
Yes, please. Thank you. Mr. Ross, Bryce, please. Hi, Bryce. Bryce.
Hello, Chair. I just wanted to clarify, if it was misunderstood by Board Member Fuller that I was suggesting this was a conversation about money, while that may be one point that ultimately is to be looked at, that's not at all what I was suggesting whatsoever. What I was suggesting was we provided a basis of design, which at the time our engineer was suggesting the lift station should be designed to based on his professional opinion of what the flows would be. Something different than that was constructed based on the district's engineer's suggestion, is my recollection. And I just want to go back and look at it and understand exactly, is there capacity? Is the Miramar going to be served correctly? Just look at it holistically, because I don't think anyone's memory is exact looking back, but I think it's worth looking at.
Thank you. I think that I do see a raise. Okay. Okay, Bob Hazard. Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Fuller, was there any other comment?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead and move on. We're going to go ahead and have Ms. Poitras go ahead. Poitras, can you go ahead and put your hello?
Engineering Manager Poitras, would you like me to bring the staff report or the presentation on the screen?
Everyone has the staff report, and I'll tell you what page that's on. You should all have the page number. I believe that's on page, is that 40, Betsy?
Yes, page 40
Okay.
is the staff report.
Yeah, please go ahead, everyone. If you want to go ahead to follow, go ahead and turn to page 40, and we'll put that up on the screen for everyone else to see. And we all should have read it. And there's some 3 alternatives that maybe we could pull that up and go ahead. Ms. Poitras, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'd like to go over the staff report first.
Okay, go ahead. I mean, we do have some time here, so go ahead, please, and we'll just go ahead and do that. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I just wanted to give a brief report on the progress of this project. Staff and Board President Johnson, as well as the Miramar Resort team, did meet on Thursday, July 29th to discuss the project. We are continuing to work with Flowers and Associates at this time, and staff has reviewed the draft Miramar Lift Station Pump Capacity Technical Memo that describes the flows and reiterates the KEH report that was provided to the district by Miramar of the flows that it was designed for. Then John Turner of Phoenix Civil Engineering used those KEH flows to design the lift station, and that is documented in that tech memo as well. Flowers and Associates also has incorporated the Caltrans roadway design documents and our feedback from our meeting on July 29th. And we've come up with a couple different distinct alternative alignments for this sewer main relocation, which I'll go over each alignment in a short presentation. Staff has also attended a meeting with the Caltrans coordinator on August 10th to discuss the feasibility of these 3 potential relocation alignments. And we are have gotten good approval from Caltrans for that information since this staff memo has been written. So the next steps, milestones, is to evaluate and select the preferred alternative alignment for the final design. And we need to choose that final design. And if there's any associated easements requirements with that final alignment, we need to have some preliminary agreement, those set by October 4th. And then in order to be able to meet our deadline for the Caltrans 65% relocation drawings by December 2021. Betsy, can you switch over to the presentation now?
Yes, I'll just need one moment.
Thank you.
Carrie, what date is that in December? That's 65%,
Essentially, it's December 31st.
last day of the year. Okay.
Yep.
Can you see the presentation now?
Yes.
Thank you. Let me know when you want me to move forward, engineering manager Porteous.
Is there a way that you can put it into presentation mode?
Oh, sorry, it is for me. So let me try again.
I think it just swapped.
How about now?
Perfect. Thank you. Can you progress to the next slide? So work to be completed and work that has been completed to date. The survey for the alignment for alignment 1, which was the alignment that was in the proposal and the by Flowers and Associates and in our request for proposal, that survey has been completed, and 2 of the 3 geotechnical investigation borings have been completed. These are borings in specific locations to make sure and understand the soil makeup of where we were going to have the jack and bore receiving pits and drilling pit. So the 3rd one is supposed to be completed within the next week or so. We have received the draft memo from Flowers. We made comments on it and we're expecting the final memo to be completed in September. And we have discussed, and I'll be showing 3 different exhibits. So those exhibits have been completed. And like I said, we had met at different various meetings for the stakeholder outreach. Betsy, can you flip to the next slide? So this is an exhibit of the alternative that was in the proposal and in the RFP. This is what we name as alternative 1. It's going from Hickson Road across to the Miramar's secondary valet driveway and connecting into the Miramar's manhole. So this alternative, it meets the Caltrans requirements. We're not the receiving pit. So it's the dark gray alternative was what we call alternative 1 alignment. We did look at a slightly skewed alignment for alternative 1B. However, there was some, I'll go over each pros and cons for each alternative in a matrix pretty soon. But there's a slightly different for alternative 1B where it's connecting actually into the manhole within the lift station, which is the Montecito Sanitary District manhole. So that's kind of the differences between alternative 1A and 1B. Betsy, can you switch to alternative 2, please?
Very quick question on
Sure.
that previous slide.
Okay, Betsy, can you go back to alternative 1?
On alternative 1B there, this is the first I've seen this other than our packet here, but it's better online. You've got a receiving pit on 1B, whereas 1A does not have a receiving pit, does it?
It does. So 1A has the receiving pit within Hickson. So the receiving pits are smaller than the boring pit. So depending on, so Hickson is a roadway where there's, traffic and whatnot. So we're trying to limit the amount of impact to both the county road right away and any property owners and whatnot. So in 1A, the receiving pit is located on Hickson and the boring pit is located on within that secondary valet driveway of the Miramar.
Yeah,
I
And then
see.
for 1B, it's switched because we would be going into a separate manhole. We are trying to limit how much of the boring pit would be within South Jamison Lane, which is, a heavily traveled roadway. So we've swapped
Yeah.
and put the receiving pit on the other side for those alternatives.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Alternative 2, please, Betsy. So alternative 2 was an alternative that was suggested by Miramar during our July 29th meeting. So this is an alternative which goes from Hickson Road over to the HOA property, which is adjacent to the Miramar. So this is a condo property. So it's not the Miramar property, but we have not contacted this HOA property yet to verify if this is something that they would be willing to do. But this is a proposed alternative so that we would be having less impact to the Miramar. The boring pit would be within Hickson Road, which is of greater impact to Hickson. The receiving pit would be within the HOA property. We would need to add another manhole onto the HOA property in order to be able to make that right-hand turn. And then we would need to be able to construct a pipeline more or less underneath or through our concrete and lift station that we have now. So I'll go over the pros and cons in just a bit, but this is kind of the layout for alternative 2 that was suggested by Miramar.
Carrie, would you explain what a boring pit is and a receiving pit, please?
So in order to get across Highway 101 without open trenching, that's what you normally see, where you dig down, you put in the pipe at the bottom, and then you backfill it with dirt. We can't do that, obviously, because they have to keep the roadway open and traffic moving. So we're using a jack and bore method. So within the boring pit, it's a piece of casing pipe. So it's a really strong pipe that they literally push it multiple times across the roadway. And that casing pipe is underneath the freeway. And the receiving pit just means that's where you kind of receive it and make sure that it stops at the correct location. And then you put in your carrier pipe, the actual gravity sewer pipe, within that casing pipe. So it's just a method of construction that is a non-trenching method. That's all that jack and bore means. And it's one of the required methods that Caltrans likes to use because there's less impacts to the traffic.
So do you have to bore the hole, drill the hole in order to put that casing set in there?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So essentially you're tunneling underneath 101.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Next slide, Betsy. So alternative 3 is an option that basically it's only slightly, it's about, 5 or 10 feet further away from our existing pipeline. So this is what we call, this is one of the other alternatives that was asked to be looked at. So it goes from North Jamison Road over to basically Post Lipo. So it crosses all the way under South Jamison as well. The receiving pit would be in North Jamison to try and keep one lane open to traffic. There would need to be K-rail because we are extending into the Caltrans right away. And then the boring pit, which is the larger pit, would be located within Post Lipo Lane, trying to fit in between all the existing utilities that are there. So that's what this alignment is. Next slide, Betsy. So these proposed alternatives all have what we call opportunities and challenges. So I'll go down each alternative and go over the opportunities and challenges and try and answer any questions that you have with each alternative. So alternative 1.
Excuse me, Ms.
Yes.
Poitras, do we have that in our packet?
You have a shortened version of it where it's just looking at, within the staff report, where it's just looking at alternative 2 and alternative 3.
Yeah, it would be nice if we had that in our packet.
Yes, we were still working on this when the packet was distributed last week. So this can be distributed to the full board after this meeting.
Yeah, it'd be nice if I could have it before the meeting. Okay, thank you. Even just like an hour before. Thank you.
So alternative one is the 12-inch sewer main at Hickson Road entering the Miramar lift station from the resort side on the west. So the opportunity is that flow is redirected from the Pozo Lipo lift station and minimizes the low flow and odor issues at the Miramar lift station. And that construction at Hickson Road is within the county right of way, and work on the south side of Highway 1 is off of South Jamison roadway. So the challenge is that this alternative requires real property acquisition for a new permanent easement in the Miramar parcel and acquisition of the manhole that we would be connecting to, the Miramar manhole, that's located in the secondary valet driveway. So this challenge has both a cost and a schedule impact. That's what the wording is within the parentheses. The other challenge is the construction and long-term operation with Miramar staff. You know, obviously we're going to be within this alternative, we would be owning that additional manhole. We would be having a pipe within that driveway, and there would be ongoing coordination. So alternative 2 is a 12-inch sewer main at Hickson entering the Miramar lift station from the HOA property on the east side of the lift station. This alternative also has the opportunity to where the flow is redirected from the Pozo Lipo lift station and minimizes the low flow and odor issues at Miramar lift station. The construction at Hickson Road is within the county right away, which is also a benefit. This alternative has quite a few more challenges. It requires real property acquisition for the new permanent easement on the neighboring homeowners association property, which obviously trying to get an additional easement will have cost and schedule impacts. This construction also requires coordination by third parties, the HOA, which we have not dealt with before in terms of this Miramar lift station. And also there's an SCE pole right near the corner of the Miramar lift station, and we're required to be at least 5 feet away from that pole. And SCE would be wanting to observe during construction. The other challenge with alternative 2 is we would still require coordination with the Miramar Resort to get equipment down to the work site, because there's a great difference between South Jamison roadway and where we would be able to connect into the Miramar lift station. We would need to get equipment down into the work site through the secondary valet driveway and through their parking lot, through the flood control entrance, in order to be able to bring equipment down into there. This obviously could impact schedule and could impact the Miramar. The angle of approach for the relocated sewer main may require additional Caltrans approval. So we're still coordinating with Caltrans on that. The location of the manhole adjacent to the lift station, once it's constructed, will be difficult for future operation and maintenance. Obviously, because it's at within the HOA property, we can't necessarily get equipment over there onto that property easily. It will add some operation and maintenance concerns. Also, this alternative, it's unclear if the design can be completed within the Flowers and Associates contract amount. So most likely an amendment to the contract would be needed, which may cause schedule and cost issues. The third alternative is the 12-inch sewer main crossing Highway 101 at Pozo Lipo Lane, which is completely outside the Caltrans setback. The opportunities, it can be constructed from county right-of-way to county right-of-way, which eliminates any third-party involvement. It's also the new district assets would be located within county right-of-way rather than on somebody else's property. The challenges is that the wastewater flows, the wet weather flows, and the future sewer main extensions that flow to Pozo Lipo will directly impact and continue to impact the Pozo Lipo lift station, and will require future capacity improvements to the Pozo Lipo lift station and the force mains, which will have a cost. Also, this is a missed opportunity to reduce the low flow issues at the Miramar lift station, which will lead to higher operation and maintenance level of effort, which has a cost. There is a challenge with the location of the receiving pit. It would impact the driveway to the homeowners that are right there. So coordination with those homeowners would be needed. Also, this alternative is not scoped within the existing Flowers and Associates contract and will require additional survey and additional borings, which would impact the schedule and the cost. Okay, next slide, Betsy. So like I said, Flowers and Associates have completed the draft technical memo. We have given them comments and they're working on the final memo, but there was a couple items that they had asked that we discuss to make sure that everyone is using the correct numbers with regards to the Miramar lift station. So per the basis of design of the KEH report, which is the report that the Miramar gave the district, the total daily average wastewater generation for the project was expected to be a little over 52,000 gallons per day. The estimated basin volume was calculated to be a little over 103,000 gallons to contain the peak flow of 430 gallons per minute for 4 hours. We do have at the Miramar lift station a mag meter that measures the flow, the actual flow that's being pumped out of the lift station. And from February 2019 through June 2021, Miramar's total daily average flow is 21,900 gallons with an observed instantaneous peak, which means, you know, at one little short period of time, the daily maximum of 49,700 gallons. So we wanted to make sure that everyone is using the correct numbers for and discussing the Miramar. Next slide, Betsy. So the project milestones. So these are the future project schedule. Like I said, the alignment selection and the real property preliminary approvals need to be done by October 4th of 2021 in order for us to stay on schedule to submit the 65% relocation and abandonment plans to Caltrans by the end of the year. And then the 100% relocation abandonment plans are due to Caltrans by March 31st, 2022. So next March. Any real property final negotiations, so final easement documents and whatnot, we would need to submit and if necessary by the end of 2022. And while this is going on, we're going to be doing permitting through the county and through Caltrans and whatnot, and that's expected to happen it needs to be done by the winter of 2022. And then after that's been done, then we would bid the project sometime maybe in spring of 2022. But as long as we finish the construction of the sewer main relocation and that it's completed and the existing utilities are abandoned by February 2023, then we have met our obligations with Caltrans. And Betsy, I think that might be the last of the slides.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much. So this is the type of thing that is so important that we have this in our packet before the presentation, because I don't think I will allow this to happen again unless we have the information. Even if it was the day before, we would have to have a special meeting or change the date of this. Okay, so it looks like that all of them are going to impact, I guess, the Miramar. I think you're asking us to look at this and make decisions. The board of directors will have to look at this more carefully. Right now, the Miramar just opened as far as after the pandemic. And then you're talking about construction that could be possibly, I guess, next year is what you're talking about. And that'd be probably the spring and that's probably their high season. So I think the alternatives should be looked at carefully so it doesn't impact a business such as the Miramar. Even like the second one might impact the condos, the third one. I mean, is there any alternatives that that doesn't impact any of those three areas or the two areas that you're talking about? I think there's three, but
Alternative 3 would not be on any,
Not finished.
Oh.
So it looks like it's going to impact their main valley parking driveway. And where you're going to park all those cars. I think we have to think about this further and get some answers. You know, they have quite a few cars, probably a couple hundred cars. So, I mean, there's a lot of other questions that have to be addressed. Are you recommending Flowers to continue this project?
I think that's up to the board with regards to the conflict of interest that you have discussed.
Correct. Okay, thank you. I just would like to have more information based on these few pieces of paper that I received prior to the meeting. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to bring it back to the board. The board have any questions?
I do, Director Johnson.
Yes, please go ahead. Director Fuller.
Well, the main question we were interested in earlier is how much is it going to cost us to change engineering firms? And is there a time coming up that would facilitate an easy change between engineering firms? So we'd like to know, do you have an idea as to what that cost would be, Carrie? Carrie, are you there?
I'm here, Director Fuller. At this time, I have not looked into exactly how much it would cost to go with another firm. There is a good stopping point with Flowers. Once we receive their final technical memo, we would own that information. That would be a good stopping point, which we expect that to happen in September.
Excellent. And that information can be used, that information can be used without hesitation by a second engineering firm, or do they have to go back and redo the calculations because they didn't do them themselves?
That is correct. It can be used by another engineering firm.
Okay, so
So
they
we
wouldn't
would
have to do any work twice. Sorry.
Correct.
Okay, so again, that might be something that legal needs to take a look at. If there's anything that we need to be careful of, other people using other documents, and that would have to be probably written by our legal counsel. I don't think it's as easy as, 1, 2, 3. So I think that carefully has to be studied. Okay, Director Barrett, thank you. Director Fuller.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Portress, going back, it's not in our packet, but going back, the impact of this line is 54,000 gallons a day. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's how much that the KEH report estimated that would be the flow from Miramar.
So now, do we have two lines going across 101? One's abandoned right now and one's in service. Is that correct?
From Posilipo, you're talking about?
Going to Posilipo, yes.
From Posilipo, well, to Posilipo, there is one 12-inch gravity sewer main that brings the flow to Posilipo. From Posilipo, there is technically 4 force mains. There's 2 8-inch lines that were put in 2009 that are in South Jameson. There's also 2 6-inch lines that cross Highway 101 and are along North Jameson that can also be used. However, they're in not very good shape, and we have essentially not used them, and that's why they're going to be abandoned as part of this project.
Well, minor recollection from previous conversations was, I think Rico said the maximum with a water, rain event for Posilipo, it's done 130,000 gallons in one day. Is that right or wrong?
It's an instantaneous flow, and yes, that's something I recall, and Rico can answer that question more fully.
Well, so do we just have currently right now, the reason we're having to move this line is we have one 12-inch line that's coming from Hickson or in that area over to Posilipo. Is that correct? Just one line?
Yes, that's the line that's in conflict with the Oak Creek Bridge footing that Caltrans is proposing for the HOV expansion of the freeway.
Okay. And then we have another line out there that's abandoned that we're going to go ahead and fully abandon, I suppose.
Correct.
That's part of this project. Right now, Flowers, the only thing they've worked on is number 1. They haven't
Yes.
looked at number 2, number 3, because if they do, that's extra money.
Correct.
Where did these other 2 ideas come from?
Alternative 2 was suggested by Miramar during our meeting that we had with them. And alternative 3 was more or less also suggested during that meeting to make sure that we looked at all different alternatives in our analysis.
Who prepared these maps?
Those were prepared by Flowers and Associates. After our meeting with the Miramar, we had asked Flowers to prepare the different alternatives so we can have
Okay.
something to visually talk to Caltrans about, because we were also concerned about the angle to cross the freeway, because normally they like it to be very perpendicular, and we wanted to confirm with them that Caltrans would accept all these different potential alignment options before we went any further.
So based on your flow rates, not an instantaneous peak flow rate, that may be that 130,000 gallons to Posilipo, we're talking about, from that previous slide you had there, 54,000 and a little bit more gallons is going to be the impact if you take it directly to the Miramar lift station. It's going to add an additional 54,000. Is that right?
So that's over a whole day. What we have to really look at, and what the draft tech memo and the final tech memo will answers a little bit more clearly, is talking about the instantaneous flow, the gallons per minute. How much can the pumps produce and how much the force mains can actually handle. The force mains are our actual, that's our limiting factor. And so that's what's being looked at within this technical memo.
Okay. And there was a number, again, we don't have the chart in front of us, but it seemed like estimated peak instantaneous for the Miramar based on not full occupancy for 2019, 2020. Somebody pulled the numbers out from somewhere, I guess. It was at 24,000 or 21,000. What was that number?
19,800.
So Betsy will bring up the presentation slide again to slide number 7.
Slide number 7, the next one,
Yep,
Betsy.
next one, Betsy. There you go.
21,900. Okay.
21,900.
So that's the average daily flow. And that's just, these are numbers to help compare what we're actually seeing over an average day to compare what it's actually, what the original design or the original estimate of the flows were. So we're basically trying to show is that on an average day, a normal day, and throughout, most of the time that so far the Miramar has been operating, we have really low flows. And that's why we've been having odor issues. And we've been having a lot of maintenance issues, which our maintenance crew has been spending a lot of time and money on the Miramar to try and make sure we don't get these odor complaints. And the instantaneous peak flow, that's basically showing that, on that one particular day, we had a high flow of 49,700 gallons, but that's still under what was estimated to be the average day flow. So does that answer your question?
Well, if you go back in time, Mr. Ross is going to look it up also, but we probably have it in our record somewhere. The Miramar engineers came up with a number, and I'm just going to pick a number out of the air. Say it's 44,000. They came up with their project. Then John Turner got a hold of it with Phoenix, goes, oh, no, we need to build something that's 100,000 gallons. And those are just blown out numbers. I have no idea what those numbers were.
So,
but if we take this 54,000 added to that 44 and we have a rain event, that's more than the Miramar lift station can handle. Is that what Flowers is looking into and trying to determine?
yes, they are looking at the actual capacity of the basin volume. So the KEH report is the report that we got from Miramar. It did talk about that it needed a basin volume of about 100,000 gallons. So that's where you're kind of remembering that number of 100,000 gallons. And that's basically to contain a peak flow. John did not over-design the Miramar lift station. He took and used the KEH report as part of his design. And that's what's referenced in the Phoenix basis of design report. Both of the KEH and the Phoenix design report are referenced into the tech memo prepared by Flowers.
What is KEH?
It's the name of a company.
Okay, so this is like ABC Corporation,
Correct.
KEH.
Yeah.
So KEH was employed by who?
By Miramar.
Okay, so this is their engineering group.
Correct.
They came up with a, anticipated flow rate with, premises totally occupied,
Right.
everybody taking a shower at once, the whole 9 yards.
Correct.
Yep.
And they came up with a number that is X, and that was done 2018, way back when,
That report was done in 2016.
2016. Does anybody know what that number is?
What number?
The KEH came up with?
Yes, it's the $52,474.
And but you're calling that an instantaneous, that's what they need for debris for the basin. That 103,000 gallons.
That's a volume
Mm-hmm.
that they calculated based on a peak flow.
430 gallons per minute,
Correct.
which is 25,000 per hour times 4 hours comes up to 103.
Right.
So that's KEH's number.
Correct.
So what can the Miramar lift station do? The pumps that are there and the force main, the whole 9 yards. What is the maximum it can do?
103,200 gallons.
No, it can actually do more. That's what is being written into the draft or into the technical memo. So that's why we need to wait until we get the final technical memo. And that's what's going to be reported in there of what can the actual Miramar actually do. And that's based on the size of the pumps that John selected and also the force main. But he used the information from the KEH report to select and do his design. But that's what we're finding so far is that the Miramar is actually capable of doing more than what it was designed to do. And that's what we're trying, that the final technical memo will state what the actual Miramar lift station is capable of doing.
Does the district have some type of flow metering device on the Miramar lift station that records things on a daily basis, like for 24 hours or something like that?
Yes, it records on a daily basis. It's a mag meter that's calibrated. And it's just based on what's pumped out. So it's not necessarily recording what's coming into the lift station, per minute or whatnot. It's just recording how much the pumps are pumping out.
Right. So I was wondering if we could coordinate that with Mr. Ross and find out what the occupancy is on a certain day, what the flow is coming out of the Miramar station. And that's a simple arithmetic. That's a ratio deal. And if you have 100% occupancy, there's your number.
Great idea.
Is that wrong or right?
Yeah, Bryce can answer this question.
Okay, so he raised his hands. Okay, so let's go ahead and is there any other board member have a question? If not, I'll bring it to the public, and that would be Mr. Ross. Okay. So was there any other additional question you had?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. It's a very involved process. I'm just trying to figure out an easy way, not an easy way, but some type of logical engineering way to measure these flows and answer the Miramar's question and our question as to what the requirements are of the district and the requirements of the Miramar are.
Yeah, it's going to take some time to try to sort all this out. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring that quickly to the public. Yeah, Bryce, Ross, please.
Thank you. Board Member Barrett, I think that would be a great idea. I'm not an engineer. I don't know if everyone on the board is an engineer or not, but obviously there's a lot of technical detail here. What I look at is, KEH said we are going to need 52,000 gallons. We're doing 21.9, and we're not, as you mentioned, maybe there was a day we reached 100% occupancy from a rooms standpoint or a transient standpoint. But remember, the Miramar has restaurants and the Miramar has banquet facilities that can accommodate hundreds of people. So, there's a lot of different things that all have to peak at once. And I
Yeah.
think that that's really the science that we need to analyze here. You know, and just roughly looking at the numbers, I mean, if KEH said 52,000 gallons and our instantaneous peak coming from the Miramar has been 49, that kind of feels like the KEH report had a pretty good indication of what it was going to need. But like I said, I'm not an engineer. I just know we should have an engineer look at this, sit down with staff, and really make sure that whatever's being contemplated here is all encompassing, and we're not going to have a problem later, and just really, you know, get into the detail is what I'd like to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Bryce. Was there any other comments from the public? Okay, so after listening to the presentation and our board and the public and the applicant, I think what we have to do is look at this where they have a meeting, because I think they're looking at possibly 3 options. My concern is that how will this impact the driveway? That was my main concern way at the beginning, just because it's where their valet parking is, and their parking, that was a big issue even at the Montecito Planning Commission with the parking. So again, this was brought up to why we're here. So I think we're going to have to have them have a meeting, get some more additional information. Hopefully we have all this information in our packet so we could discuss it and make some decisions. And I think there's some other areas that we need to look at, whether it's going to be Flower, another engineer firm, what the cost would be. I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions because we don't even have how much any of these, I guess there's like 3 engineer firms. So how much were each of them? I don't know. So there's a lot of unknowns. We're going to have to probably wait until we hear back to get some answers. And then I think we need to move on. It's already 4 o'clock and we have some other issues. Was there anything else we need to discuss? Because we will bring this back to our board once we have some more additional information. Okay. Thank you. So let's go ahead and move on. We have items here. This is another important item.
Madam President, if we're moving forward to the next agenda item, I will bring General Manager Rare back into the meeting.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Will do now. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that, Betsy. God, we've got all about Brad. Hello, Brad. Can you hear us? Yes, welcome back. Thank you. So we have item 7A, and that is the authorizing the general manager to issue a purchase order for the emerging replacement of one of the 2 grinders and the treatment
Yep.
plant effluent channels. This is brought to my attention as well. So go ahead, Brad. If you could do a brief description, and let's go ahead and see if we could get this moving forward. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Madam President. So at our last meeting on August 12th, I reported to the board that our staff became aware of a situation with one of our influent pump grinders that protects our influent pumps. And upon inspection of it, our staff determined that it's reached the end of its useful life and it can no longer be repaired. So staff have worked with the vendor and received a quote, which was included in your staff report packet. And that quote was for $23,430.98, which is above my threshold to issue a purchase order. So that is why we're here today, to bring it to the board for approval so that we can get that thing replaced. It's a critical piece of equipment because it protects those pumps, but also protects downstream processes from anything inorganic and rags coming through the collection system.
Okay, is there any questions from the board? Director Barrett, as always, good questions. Go ahead.
Just briefly, Brad, is before your time as general manager, obviously, but we believe this damage was caused by the debris flow and then was repaired. Is that right? Did we get any FEMA money or anything for that repair since it was caused by debris flow? I mean, does anybody know?
Director Barrett, I do not believe so. I can confirm with my staff. These items are kind of one of those items that are sacrificial in order to protect downstream processes. And so we expect a certain level of wear and tear over time. To say that all the damage was caused by debris coming through the collection system after the debris flow, it's hard to say, but I'm happy to report back to the board later on that.
Well, it looks like we need it. So
Absolutely.
I don't think we have much of a choice here.
I agree.
I believe this will take a motion.
$3,430.98.
I second that motion.
Sorry.
Let's go ahead. I think all of us, we have a motion, a second by Director Eversole, a motion by Director Barrett. That's it. Let's go ahead and read the motion, and then let's go ahead. If there's any questions, I'll bring it back to the public. Okay, if there's any questions. Go ahead.
Yes, I believe the motion was to authorize the general manager to issue a purchase order to JWC Environmental in the amount of $23,430.98 to replace one of the influent channel grinders. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Motion by Director Eversole, second by Director Barrett. Board President Johnson, are you ready for me to take a roll call vote?
Yes, let's go ahead and do the vote, but let me, for that, I probably should ask the public if they have any questions or comments, okay? And then we'll do the vote. Real quick, any public questions or comments before
Members
we
of the
vote?
public, if you wish to speak, please use the raise hand function in Zoom and unmute yourself. Madam President, I see no raised hands.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and do the vote. Roll call.
Madam Chair, I had one question before we vote, please.
Okay, of course, Director Barrett.
Brad, did you get more than one bid on this or just JWC?
Good point.
Great question, Director Barrett. We did not get multiple bids, and we addressed that in the analysis justification section of the staff report. This piece of equipment slips right into two slots in a channel that feeds the influent pumps. And so there really is only one vendor that will fit our current configuration. Making any changes to that at this juncture would create a bigger project for us. So we wanted to move forward.
Okay, thank you for that answer.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, good question, but thank you very much for the answer too. Okay, let's go ahead and take roll call.
Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversole,
Aye.
Director Fuller,
Aye.
Director Newquist,
Aye.
Director Johnson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's go ahead and move on. There's no committee reports as of today. We're going to go into the district operations and maintenance. We're going to have a lot of committee reports next time. District operations and maintenance, information items. General manager again will provide information, non-actionable updates. So we'll go ahead and do that quickly, Brad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
President. So as you may recall from our last meeting, I was reporting live from that California Association of Sanitation Agency conferences down in San Diego. I received a great update on some of the future legislative actions as far as it pertains to American Recovery Act or Plan Act. And so anyway, one of my takeaways from that conference was I noticed there were other board members there. So this time next year, hopefully we can have one of our board members attend to help represent the district with me. I also wanted to let the board know that we are in the process of executing the enhanced recycle water feasibility study contract with Carollo. It's in their hands right now, and hopefully we will be getting word that they've executed their end, and then it can come back to the board or it'll come back to our team to sign and fully execute it. So Nick Turner at Montecito Water and I are very excited to have probably a kickoff meeting come September. So future updates to come soon.
And Brad, we were bringing that with our strategic planning group.
Yeah, I can update. I would be updating the strategic planning.
Great.
In September.
Thank you.
I also want to let the board know that after several years of waiting for a National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit, or NPDES permit, it's been on hold pending staffing at the State Water Resources Control Board level. But we were contacted earlier this week about setting up a meeting so we know that they're actually working on our permit renewal, which will be great. We're about 3 years overdue for that permit to be renewed. So staff and I are meeting with them and making sure we provide them all the information needed to renew that. And then last but not least, we were contacted by the Central Coast Community Energy Coalition and attended a presentation on what they do. And basically it allows us, by participating in the program, there is no cost, but by participating in the program, it helps us get in touch with SCE and some of their funding mechanisms and electrification programs. So we're pursuing that as part of our grant update. So anyway, so that's going well. And then last but not least, for those of you who have not been by the district to sign anything, the boardroom is under major construction right now. So next time you see the boardroom, it will probably it'll probably look indistinguishable. You will not have seen this boardroom yet. So I'm really excited to see that that's going to be completed here in the next couple of weeks. So.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Anything else?
Oh, yes, one more thing. I have this as my reminder. Thank you for everybody for responding for the board training. We have a board training meeting on Monday, the 30th of August at 12:30 to complete our mandatory board training. Thank you, Director Eversole, for already having done yours virtually. So
Yes.
that is all.
Okay. That's it. Thank you, Brad. So we don't have any agreements to be signed this time. Operation and maintenance report. Period of
Madam-
August 2nd through August 15th. Would that be Woody?
Madam Chair,
Yes, please.
Brad, what are those flows? You got 8,405 mg. Does M stand for million?
Correct.
So we had 8 billion.
That is, no, that's 8.405 million gallons of flow treated over the 2-week period.
Okay, and then the 0.6, I'm not used to seeing these in 13-day increments.
Yeah.
So what's our average per day? Is that 600,000 gallons a day?
Correct. That's 0.6 million gallons per day, or 600,000 gallons per day. So we're hovering right there at that 600,000 gallon per day mark.
Why is it so much higher? We've been running at 520, 540, and all of a sudden it's 600.
Great question. I haven't been able to deduce what has come online since then. I know some of our major hotels are offline, like the Biltmore. I understand they're doing a lot of construction though right now. So there may be some water generated there at their facility, as well as maybe people coming back from summer vacations and it comes back. Those would be speculative though at best.
Yeah, that's over a 10% increase. That's pretty big.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director. Okay, so we're going to move on. I think we have pretty much completed everything. We're going to the items for the next agenda. I know that Brad and I are trying to put something together for the next 6 months. I think we're going to still look at that. There's several things that we do want to bring up. Brad, do you want to go ahead with a few of the items, or do you want to just go ahead and wait and discuss? Because there's quite a few items, and we could actually send that out, maybe the draft if you want.
Yeah, I'm happy to share that with the board, Director Johnson. But for next meeting, we have 4 items currently on the agenda. So this will be the September 9th meeting at 2 p.m. We will be receiving a update from Mark Mannion on the ordinance to collect construction costs on the county tax roll.
Mhm.
We'll also be discussing and presenting the roof repair and replacement bids. We're currently out to bid right now, and so we will have the bids open by then, and we'll be able to update the board on how that turned out. And we will also be discussing the manhole monitoring system that we have within the district. The equipment is up for renewal. And it again is above my threshold for renewal. So we'll be discussing issuing a purchase order for next year's subscription. And last, we'll be discussing committee assignments and whether or not what changes might need to be made down the road. So Director
Okay,
Johnson.
thank you. Thank you. And Brad and I usually meet like every other week to discuss our agendas, and we will keep you informed. Okay. So was there, so thank you, Brad. I think that there was only other thing that you were going to give a quick update on the COVID. Was that something that you wanted to share?
Correct. I can share. Unfortunately, there's not much officially changed yet for us here at the district. We are still closed for business except for appointment only. Monday, they did make an announcement, or FDA made an announcement that the Pfizer vaccine has been officially approved. It's no longer in the experimental status. So we are in the process of evaluating what does that mean for our district operations and policies. At this juncture, though, unfortunately, Director Johnson and I talked about this on Monday. We don't really have a anticipated return to in-person board or committee meetings yet. It will really come down to what we think the state will do. And the current order allowing us to have virtual meetings, I believe, expires on September 30th. So between now and maybe the next meeting, hopefully we'll get an update on what the state plans to do with their executive order, if they're planning on making any changes. So I'll keep you in the loop on it as much as I know.
Thank you. Okay, so we have that information, and then would anyone like to go ahead and adjourn the meeting? And I
Well,
want to thank each and every one of you for all your hard work. So we do appreciate it. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Dr.
one
Barrett,
thing,
we do appreciate you with all your questions.
the minutes that we approved today on August 12th said we were going to talk about the $8,400 connection fee today. It wasn't on today's agenda. Are we going to put that on the September 9th?
We plan to do that. We are planning to do that. Okay, because there's
Okay.
some issues there that we want to discuss. It's a thick report, and we just want to make sure everyone has time to review that. Okay.
Director Johnson, I did want to mention, since we did pull it off the agenda for the 9th, we were discussing adding it to the next finance committee to start it back at finance to discuss the impacts with a future rate study. And then we can bring it to the full board if the finance committee wants to discuss it.
Okay.
That would be better. That'd be good. So,
Great.
yeah, what do you put on your hat again? For the
All
final,
right.
you and Don, thank you. Your
That's
recommendation.
Don's committee. I just
Yeah.
sit there.
Okay, well, you and
You
Don,
participate.
yeah, we have to hear your recommendations. Thank you,
Well,
guys, but thank you.
My understanding is that we leave the Zoom meeting in October.
Oh, I don't know.
We physically are
We
are
don't.
together.
We don't know that yet.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that things are going to be ramping up. We don't know yet. I know that we'll get some updates on that. Okay, thank
okay.
you. So would anyone like to adjourn the meeting?
I would like to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have Donna's second, and we'll say goodbye. Thank you all. Appreciate all
Thank
your
you
help.
much.
Okay.
Everybody stay safe.
All right,
And we're
Bye-bye.
pretty good. 10 after 4. Bye-bye.
thank you.